So hello everyone, thank you for joining us at Collegiate Cymru's VocTalks, which are a series of webinars that are taking place this week from former further education learners and who are now working in their industries. So what we're going to do is we're going to be talking to a load of people from a load of different jobs, and today we're talking to the wonderful Adam Gaunt-Evans, who is currently working in the Three Eagles in Llangollen as the executive chef. Now, Collegiate Cymru been able to put these VocTalks on as part of the UFI VocTech project funding. So if you want to learn more about that, just go and hop onto their website and they can tell you a little bit more about it there. Yeah, so my name's Gabriel. Hello, nice to meet you. And the wonderful Holly. And we're going to be hosting most of these webinars. And as I said, today we have the wonderful Adam Gaunt-Evans. So Adam, why don't you tell us what college you went to and basically a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Llangollen in North Wales, so I grew up here, and I started in hospitality when I was 14, like a lot of people do really. I started washing plates in a food pub and got into the kitchen, kind of fell into it. So by the time I was ready to leave school, catering college was the natural option. We had College Cambria on our doorstep over in Wrexham, so I enrolled as a MVQ student, and yeah, basically we had a brand new restaurant at the time with the great Paul Miles. We unpacked the kitchen and set up a new restaurant. I was a first year for that, and I spent a year full time at college whilst doing a day release at a hotel, a really good hotel called the Bryn Hall, which happened to be in Llangollen with a really great chef. So I went day release there, and then after a year I was offered a full-time job at the hotel, and I spent the next year doing day release in college, so I got a bit of both worlds.
Okay, so that's pretty busy on the college front then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what kind of work have you been doing after that? I've heard you have something like 20 years of experience in this industry, so you must have been around quite a bit.
Been at it a while, yeah. So after my apprenticeship, when I'd finished my MVQ in college, so I spent about probably 2.5, 3 years in total. When I was 19, my head chef, Di Davis, got in touch with the Dorchester Hotel down in London and set up an interview. So I was made a commis chef there. So I moved down to London when I was 19 to continue my training, which was a great move. And just to touch on that, I think, we're talking to a lot of students today who are starting off, and what I would say is put your career in the hands of someone really good in your area, the best chef, the best place you can go and work. Start off in the best possible way, and hopefully I was very lucky. My chef pushed me and kind of got me down to London, which was a really good head start, because I was still very young, and it was a big head start for me. So yeah, spent 3 years in total in London. I spent 2 years at the Dorchester Hotel, and then I moved over to a Michelin star restaurant called the Greenhouse. So I spent another year there, and after that I was 22, and I hadn't been anywhere. I'd never really been on a plane, even. Coming from Llangollen, hadn't seen much of the world, so I was eager kind of to explore. So that led to my first role overseas.
Oh, wonderful! What were you doing overseas then?
So I worked with the chef in London who went out to work in Dubai, which was really the place at the time. Yeah. So the big Sale, the Burj Al Arab, the hotel that looks like a big.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I was lucky enough to have a contact there, so I went to work there for 2 years.
Oh wow!
There's a restaurant that sticks out at the top, so I spent the next 2 years there, which was seriously hard graft, because it's a 6-day working week in Dubai. So it was, London was hard, but Dubai was even harder for that, because it was 6 days, and it was kind of 15-hour days in the kitchen. It was brutal. It was really, really hard work.
Yeah.
But it was great. It was a fabulous experience, obviously. So after that, I'd done a couple of cities, and I'm a bit of a country boy coming from Llangollen. So I was ready to, have a new experience. And by that point, because I'd worked in some really good places, it's kind of when you're in hospitality, it's kind of like, it's really good to get your CV, get those places there, because it's like saying you've been to Oxford University or whatever. You know, if you've trained in the Dorchester and the Burge, these big name places, it really is a stepping stone. It's quite easy to get a job anywhere after that. So that's one thing I'd seriously recommend people think about is getting a good name place on the CV early on. So after that, I was offered a job on a tropical island in the Maldives, which was like a really high-end resort on a remote island. So I went and ran their fine dining restaurant after that, which was amazing. Yeah, it was my first, Dubai, obviously we had it's very multicultural, but that was really my first step into Asia. So we had chefs from everywhere, really.
Wow.
So it was a learning experience for me. I could cook and I could run a kitchen by that stage, but every day I was just learning something totally new, learning about spices and curries and how to really cook that food.
Surrounded by loads of new cultures. Yeah.
Oh, you've really been all over the globe then.
I've moved around, yeah, and again, that was, it's because I hadn't really been anywhere when I was young, and I wanted to see the world, and I just realised that I could. It was really easy once I had a good training under my belt and some good places on my CV. It wasn't difficult, opportunities just kind of came along. So we went to Sydney, and I worked in a seafood restaurant as a sous chef for a year, which was really cool. Sydney's the food scene is amazing. And then I was headhunted a few years ago to do another job out in Sri Lanka. So I moved out there for another 3 years, and oversaw a really old colonial hotel, and it just had a massive $30 million refurbishment, and they wanted to put some, upgrade the food. So I was brought in to oversee the restaurants there and get that up to date. That was massive. I mean, that was the biggest job I've done. We had a kitchen team of 80 chefs.
Wow.
Yeah, we had 80 in the kitchen, and then we had another 20 apprentices. We had a very strong apprenticeship scheme, and then we had about 30 kitchen stewards. So I had a kitchen team of 130 working under me there, and I was the only expat. So it had its challenges, that's for sure. And then finally, I've always wanted to lay down roots in Wales. So I moved back nearly 2 years ago to do the project that I'm working on now, which is Three Eagles. So I think if you're from Wales, I've worked with chefs from all over the world, wherever I've been. And whenever you're talking to people, they might be from, I don't know, north of England or somewhere, and they can't think of anything worse than going back home. They stay on. I've got good friends who've stayed on in Sydney or wherever, and they just don't think about coming home. But I think if you're Welsh, certainly for me, I always wanted to come back to the beautiful scenery and culture that we have here. So that was always the plan.
It's really inspiring hearing your story. And do you have any advice to building confidence when you're starting out?
Building confidence. That's an interesting one. I mean, I can give an example of, just with my own story. I wasn't confident when I was young. I was actually really shy, like when I was in college. And I surprised myself with the stuff I did, like going to London, and it was way out of my comfort zone. So I guess my advice would be to, don't be scared. You do need to put yourself out of your comfort zone, and it's the hard path initially. I would say it's, you have to put yourself through stuff that isn't easy and it's not comfortable. And kitchens are hard, and hospitality is difficult. It's a lot of hard work. But if you're willing to put yourself out there and do that, I think it pays off later on. And then the other thing is just to believe in yourself, just to have some self-belief. I mean, Wales is a very small country, and there's not necessarily the opportunities in kind of rural areas where that you would get in bigger cities. Obviously, that's although there are lots of great places to work all around Wales, but I think just believe in yourself, and that anyone can go off and do it. It's just having that self-belief and the determination to see it through, really. when you've got these older chefs who've been doing it for years, and when you're young and you start off, you just can't imagine how they're able to do what they do. So I remember being, 17 years old in college and watching chefs like Paul, and they just made everything look so easy. And we were screaming, touching hot pans and burning ourselves, and then asbestos hands teachers like Paul would just be, all over it and knowing what to do. So it's one of those. I suppose it's like getting good at anything. It takes years and years and years to just gradually get better and better. And then it starts to become easy. Yeah, after my apprenticeship with Di Davis, who was my first chef, he really put me on that path. He taught me so much in that couple of years, and then encouraged me to go to London. I honestly don't think I would have gone off my own back. I can actually say no, I probably wouldn't. So that was a massive turning point for me. And then every job, every step after that was kind of quite easy. Kind of making the move to go from Llangollen down to London was the biggest step that I ever made.
Yeah. Where do you feel you gained the most experience and realised you could grow to run a kitchen?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh gosh. I suppose everywhere you work, you take different stuff, really. When I worked in Dubai in the Burj Al Arab, it was a really high pressure environment. So just imagine, so there was 180 chefs in the hotel. It was a big brigade.
Wow.
So I still can't get my head around that.
Yeah, it's huge. Lots of different kitchens. And so our kitchen alone, we had about 20, 25 chefs, I guess. And just managing, so there's a kitchen position, which is chef de partie, which I was, you might have heard that, which means you're basically in charge of one of the stations of the kitchen. So I was there as a chef de partie. I think I was the youngest chef de partie in the hotel, which I was very proud about at the time because I kind of started young, so it stood me in good stead. Yeah. And then on one section there, I remember I was running the larder section, and I had about 8 or 9 chefs under me. So, and I was 22 years old. I was way out of my depth. And I made all the mistakes in management. And, also all the chefs were from different places. So I'd never worked with Indian chefs, Filipino chefs. So there's this big cultural divide as well. I made all the mistakes and I learned the hard way. But at the end of that 2 years, I really knew how to manage people and work in that high pressure, because it was pretty ruthless and it was big numbers. And like I mentioned before, it was six-day weeks. So it was... it's kind of sink or swim in that sort of environment. So I'd say that kit really kind of made me strong.
You've said you've made the mistakes. Can you give an example of what to avoid whilst managing a kitchen?
I think one that we see lots of this on TV and stuff is ego. And I think, I don't think I was particularly bad. It wasn't that I was driven by ego, but I think particularly when you're a bit younger, you do maybe have more of an ego, and you realise it's not about yourself as you get older, but it's about the team around you. So I think it's very important to always be humble and always think about other people, and it's not just yourself or your experience. You've got people around you, and how you behave affects everyone else, especially if you're at the top. If you're in charge of a kitchen, or anything really, how you behave affects the mood, the behavior, the performance of every single person around you. So if you're having a bad day or you're not managing things right, the whole thing can crumble. So I think the most important thing when you're managing is not to try and change everyone else. If you work on yourself and how you manage things, it's much easier than trying to change everyone else. So that's probably the best thing I've learned really about leadership and management. All those craft skills, which I think college is really good for, because especially these days, there's a lot more convenient stuff going on with food. A lot more food is bought in. So not every kitchen will make everything from scratch. Even high-end kitchens with Michelin stars might not buy their fish in whole anymore. So college is great for that, because you can really learn the basics. So I guess, my best memories in college were those experiences where we were all around a table and being shown something practically that is just kind of mind-blowing when you're a kid. It's like, wow, that's where food comes from.
When you were back in college, did you ever imagine having the career that you kind of have now?
Definitely not. No. I didn't really know. I knew I wanted to push myself. I think I was always driven within our group in college. I knew that I wanted to be a head chef. That was my dream. So, but no, not really. No, I didn't have any clue. I just took things as they came along, really, and seized the opportunities. And I knew I wanted to travel, but I had no idea that I would have, been able to travel so much. So I feel very, very privileged, really. It's so important. And, when it comes to food provenance, I've been banging on about this for years. And Di, the first chef I worked with, was huge on Welsh produce. This is going back, more than 20, 25 years, where his menus were screaming with Welsh produce. And it's something that stayed with me, something we strongly believe in at the restaurant. But sadly, with the times, a lot of these kind of corporate companies have looked more at bottom lines and spreadsheets than that. And it's changed a lot of things. But I think younger people now as well, like the millennial generation, it's very important for people to be doing stuff that's that they believe in. And I think the provenance on menus will be more important than ever when we reopen.
Like, who else have you cooked for that's famous apart from, Donald Trump is a big one. Is there anyone else?
Yeah, so in the Dorchester in London, it was A-list celebs all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So one of the biggest ones I cooked for Nelson Mandela.
Really?
He used to stay there.
Wow.
Tom Cruise used to own a room in the hotel.
Yeah.
So
wow.
When he was married to Nicole Kidman, so they were there a lot. All sorts of people there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I think that kind of wraps everything up quite nicely. Awesome, yeah.
So, Adam, is there anything you'd like to say as a finishing statement, or anything you want to
Any
plug?
advice?
So I guess there's a lot of young people here who are starting their careers. So just reiterating what I said before, just be ambitious, believe in yourself, and push yourself, work hard, and find your passion, really, and the rest of it will hopefully come.
Amazing.
That's perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.